Welcome to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast with your hosts Griffin Palmer, CJ Hickman, Jason Cabrera, and Ryan Mitchell.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is Friday, September 15th. This is the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast, the official podcast of thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. I am your host, Griffin Palmer, back in the studio, and want to re-welcome in CJ the Hitman Hickman and Jason Cabrera. What's up, guys?
Hi.
Hey, welcome back.
What's going on?
Not much. We have an amazing show for you guys today. Today, we're going to be doing all of our starts and sits for week number 2. Of course, also all of our top headlines from around the league already falling apart. Can't talk. So I have to ask you guys, since it's been a week since we've been in here, how did week 1 go for you guys?
It was pretty good.
Not good.
I enjoyed it.
Not good.
Pretty good, not good.
Not good for me.
Got some
I
sad
lost
stories.
both of you. I lost to both of you jokers, so that's bad. That's
play
always
some-
a bad week when I lose to CJ and anything.
Play some sad music for you, Jason.
Play that.
Yeah,
Play that
don't play sad music. Shut up. Don't play
that
sad
sad
music.
music.
You don't need your pity.
It's already
Let
happened.
it.
Need
Let
your
go.
pity.
Jason, just vent for us. Go ahead. This is a safe space. You can tell us.
It's like 3 minutes. It's like 3
No,
minutes.
I'm
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not one of those people like my opponent this week who complains about how these people let him down and all that kind
Ooh,
of crap. I just didn't
fired
play
at
well.
league
You know, I made bad decisions. I put bad people in bad spots, and I didn't play well, so I lost.
Was it it was lineup problems for you more than underperforming players? Because like I talked about on the show on Tuesday, this was one of the lower scoring weeks in recent memory. I mean, the average last week was almost double the scoring and touchdowns of what we had this week 1.
Oh, for sure. Well, and not only that, it was a lot of players that weren't expected to do well did extremely well. Like Kenny Galladay had himself a game.
Hey, I called Kenny Galladay.
You did call Kenny Galladay. It was a good call, which is why I picked him up off a waiver wire.
Dang it, I know.
Again, I did it to you again.
Yeah, he always does.
But obviously David Johnson going down, that hurt me because I had him in our listener league.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that more.
And that hurt me
headlines.
and that hurt me on several. I had a very depressing week. Not just in fantasy, but in real life. So yeah, overall it was just a bad week for me.
All right. Well, we got to shake it off week 2. CJ, you had a better week, it sounds?
Yeah, man. So let me brighten the mood up. So
right.
I beat Jason, and I think in our expert league I was the highest scoring team out of that week, so that was pretty cool. And beat the Redskins. Always love that.
Okay.
And then, then a couple other leagues that it was high scoring too, and basically won all my leagues. So I'm feeling pretty good, man.
There you
Pretty
go.
good.
I also won in all my leagues, so I'm in. I told myself I was cutting back this year, and it did end up happening. I'm in 12 leagues right now, and at least I clean sweep. I won them all, so it's a good week 1. Probably a fluke. I don't think that will be the case. I don't think I'm going to go undefeated throughout the season in all my leagues, especially not in our listener league. But it is what it is.
Never know.
And of course, and since you brought up real life football, I could not be happier seeing my Ravens shut out the Bengals, division rival.
Yeah,
that
was pretty bad.
it was beautiful.
Bengals having a bad time right now.
Oh yeah, and Thursday night game that did not go well. We'll get to that as well. Before we get to that, let's do some bookkeeping. As always, please make sure you guys subscribe to the show wherever you are listening: iTunes or Stitcher, or Podcast Addict, YouTube, really all types of audio streaming services. You can submit your questions on Twitter at the FF Fanatics. You can submit them on Facebook at facebook.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. You can email them to thefantasyfootballfanatics@gmail.com. Guys, we get a ton of submissions every single week, and we do our best to get all of them answered. The reality is we're not going to be able to get to them all. There's just too many. There's not enough time. If you want more of an opportunity to get those questions answered with more guarantees, the easiest way to do that is if you support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. You're going to get yourself a lot of bonus perks, bonus episodes, all types of cool stuff like that. And one of the perks is that you get priority question answering, and at certain tiers you get guaranteed question answering. So, if you guys really want to make sure that your questions are heard and responses given, that's your best route. Other than that, we do our best. We really do. We're here for you guys. We're here for the listeners. Our goal is to bring you guys home as many titles as possible, really. But there's only so many hours in the day, so we do our best. And if you haven't heard back from us, know that we're trying. And so, yeah, if you want to support the show, that's the easiest way to do it. Patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Help us keep these lights on. Help us keep doing what we are doing. So with that, let's go ahead and move into our warm-up, and which is what we're going to talk about. What was your biggest takeaway from Thursday Night Football? Houston at Cincinnati. For me, I'm going to go ahead and say that, remember how the entire season, preseason, I should say, off-season, preseason, we were talking about how the Bengals' offensive line was going to be a train wreck? Andy Dalton does not have an opportunity to breathe. They can't get clear running lanes. They can't keep him protected for pass. It's a train wreck. Now, given they've played two very good defenses in weeks 1 and 2 so far, but I mean, it's clear that there is a very drastic need for help on the offensive line, and they're not going to be able to find it during the season. So my biggest takeaway is that I don't know how much I expect this to improve. I think that going forward, if there is a tough matchup, or a tough defense, I should say, I'm scared to start Cincinnati players. It's case by case, but if there's a good pass rush, I'm worried about Andy Dalton and the Bengals. What were you guys' thoughts?
I feel you, but my biggest takeaway was Deshaun Watson. I mean, the kid was okay. I'm not gonna just sing his praises like that. The kid was okay. Jason and I were talking about, he needs to take a little more time to read his reads, but I mean, his offensive line is just kind of like the Bengals. They're hurting. Their star guard. He still has yet to report to the team, so that's definitely holding this offensive back so they can be able to move forward. But this, the kid, he took his shots when he could, went out there, had a nice Michael Vick type run, and that really sparked the team when it came to that for me. But just hoping that this kid goes better. He threw some shots to Hopkins and other guys, but that offensive line definitely needs the help so they can get that running game involved.
Yeah, Jason?
Yeah, I second that with Deshaun Watson. He had a pretty decent game. The biggest thing with Watson, besides the run, this is the thing with me. I'm the kind of guy that when I see that kind of a run, that worries me. I don't want my quarterback running 50 yards down the field. I want him finding receivers. I want him using his running backs, because he's going to get walloped. You know what I mean? But overall, the biggest thing that I saw with Watson was the maturation of him and his throwing to Hopkins. I mean, it started getting more and more heading to Hopkins, and Hopkins was getting more looks. So that's good. We're going to start seeing a little bit more of that, I think. But one of the big takeaways I had was I kind of liked the way Deontay Foreman looked tonight. I mean, there were several times where he was beastly on a run, and I liked the way that they spread the carries out between him and Miller. And this is something I talked about in the preseason that we might see, because he is that straightforward north-south runner, big-bodied back that can do it all. He is a 3-down back. I think he'll be a 3-down back eventually. And we saw a little bit of that tonight. So it's interesting to see that kind of come into fruition.
Lamar Miller looked good, too, though, in space. I think this will be a I don't think that Deontay Foreman's going to take over. I don't even think this will be a split, but I think
Griffin, we're just saying what we like. We're not trying to just
throw
your boy to the curb. I know you're a Lamar Miller enthusiast, but listen, we're not throwing him to the curb. We're just saying what we like.
In no way, shape, or form is that what I'm getting to. I'm just simply trying to put it into terms for the fantasy people out there who are freaking out about Lamar Miller and trying to think, do I go out and get Deontay Foreman? For me, the answer is no. At least not at this point of the season. That's all I'm getting to. Don't be so defensive there, CJ. Those are some things. Also, John Ross fumbling the ball. That was a bad rookie move.
God.
That was all we saw of him that game, was that one rush.
It was a good hit by the defender. I mean, you can't kill the kid with that. That was a really good hit.
It was.
Well, you hold on to the damn ball. You can't give it to the kid because he's playing a really, really good defense, but you hold on to that ball. I don't care how hard you hit.
Well, all I can say is also DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, I may have had him dropped on me, but I'm pretty happy with the way they're using him in this offense. He is getting a lot of forced funnel targets. He had 7 receptions. The next highest person on the team was Lamar Miller with 3. So I like that a lot because, as we've talked about extensively, DeAndre Hopkins is a very good, viable fantasy option when he is force-fed the ball, and that's what's happening. 7 receptions for 73 yards. A.J. Green, 5 receptions for 67, so a little bit more efficient. But, neither one of these guys have had a great week 2. But, it's a respectable stat line. It was a tough defensive game. But I can't even say that I enjoyed it as like a defensive struggle because there was a lot of miscues on the offensive sides for both of these teams.
Yeah,
so, it's week 2 football. Everybody's still kind of getting their feet underneath them. It's going to be the way it is for the first quarter of the season. We have this magical thing called the preseason, but nobody takes it seriously. So this is what we get for the first couple weeks.
Especially now that they don't have to cut their rosters down, as much as they do. And so basically in the last 2 games, nobody's playing except for like 4th, 5th string guys that are looking to try to make the team.
You are not wrong there. So, those are some of our takeaways from Thursday Night Football. Anything you guys want to add? Things that you like, things that you're scared of? I'm worried about all the people. I know there are a lot of analysts out there that are really high on Andy Dalton, and with that offensive line, I can't get on board with that. Maybe a streaming option, but that's about it for me at this point.
AJ Green scares me.
Does he scare you on a...
Because of how good he is?
He's not because of how great he is, just because right now this Bengals offensive line and offense is struggling. I mean, he's making some splash plays, but he's not making the kind of plays that he was in previous years. So that's kind of why. Yeah, that's kind of why I haven't been such a big believer in him this year when it comes to draft season as years before.
Yeah, I could see it, but I'm also kind of waiting to see how they do against a lesser defense, a lesser pass rush. Because
of course you're going to do good there, but I mean their schedule doesn't show that. They have more tough games than they do, winnable games.
You're not wrong there, but I think they have some favorable matchups coming up. If I remember correctly, I believe they've got Cleveland next week. I think it is.
They've been playing people tough.
Let me bring
Cleveland?
this up.
Cleveland's
No, never mind. They've got Green Bay
defensively
next week, which I mean, the Green Bay Packers defense looked good last week against the Seahawks in Lambeau, and then they're in Cleveland, and then they're hosting the Bills. Then they have a bye week. So I mean, week 3 could also maybe it'll be an offensive shootout. Who knows how that'll really play out? But a couple good matchups against the Browns and the Bills, and then they've got the Steelers, Colts. That's another good matchup. Jags, that's a tough one. Titans, Denver's tough. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of streaming, and we'll see how it plays out. So I agree. So with that, let's go ahead and move on to our top headlines from around the league. Let's move right to the running back position. And here it is. Arizona Cardinals running back David Johnson officially put on injury reserve. We tweeted this out back when it broke a couple days ago. I don't remember if that was on Tuesday or Wednesday. He will now be backed up by a large committee of running backs. There's Kerwin Williams, who is officially the starter now. They've got Andre Ellington, who's going to be doing a lot of pass catching. Isaiah Penny, we're hearing a lot about how he's going to be probably doing a lot of red zone work. They did re-sign Chris Johnson. They also grabbed... what's his name? Foster. DJ Foster, was
DJ
it?
Foster.
Off New England's
DJ
practice
Foster.
squad. I talked about that on Tuesday's show. So it's a full-blown committee, and man, have we seen people losing their minds. Because we even said that, a guy you might want to pick up before we knew about all these signings. At the time, it was Kerwin Williams, and it was Andre Ellington, and so on Tuesday's show. But, since then, all these extra guys have been added, and people have lost their minds grabbing Kerwin Williams. We had a guy in our league of record who blew 3/4 of his fab budget. I think he's 145 of his $200 budget getting Kerwin Williams. Yeah.
Okay.
That was way too much.
That's the guy, which is interesting because guess who I'm playing this week?
Eric, idiot.
That guy.
Name droppers, yes.
Right. Well, first off, for anyone who's wondering who Isaiah Penny is, his name is Elijah Penny.
Oh, sorry, I mistyped it. Yeah, my fault. Elijah
Penny.
Penny.
All right. That's cool. Yeah, Elijah Penny. But anyway, here's my take on this as the resident Cardinals guy. Kerwin Williams is very, very good. His average is extremely high. It's unsustainably high. I mean, I think he's over 5 yards a carry. But Chris Johnson is more than likely going to earn himself some more playing time than the rest of these guys. They are going to do a committee, so don't freak out and go out and grab one of these guys for too much money. But Chris Johnson, I would suspect he would be the guy to come head and shoulders above everybody else. So that's my take on it. I would definitely I would definitely expect to see more Chris Johnson than Kerwin Williams in that role because he is a 3-down back. Kerwin Williams is not necessarily a 3-down back.
You're not concerned at all about the fact that Kerwin Williams was able to secure the number 2 spot and then they released CJ2K?
The only reason that he was able to do that is because he's younger and his contract was a better situation. That's why that happened.
I mean, CJ2K has looked good in the Arizona offense in years past, but when the rookie season of David Johnson, obviously a prime example. I agree. I think that it's going to be, just based on reports that I'm hearing, obviously you're probably, I would assume, much more plugged in with the Cardinals than I am, being a Cardinals fan. But from what I'm hearing, it seems like Kerwin Williams is going to be the lead back. Andre Ellington's going to be the pass catcher, and CJ2K is going to be kind of that gadget, big play guy that they're going to try and use in a bunch of creative different ways. Maybe ends up taking over as I don't want to say workhorse, but the majority rusher. And Elijah Penny is, like I said, it sounds like they're scheming to use him a lot more in the red zone. So it's a very muddled situation. So, I mean, if you want to take a shot at one of these guys, I mean, more power to you. Go for it. I mean, one of these guys is going to probably have decent weeks, but I don't think any one of these guys are going to be necessarily startable week in and week out. You're not going to find the next David Johnson. Right. It's not like if Isaiah Crowell Le'Veon Bell, that's a better example, goes down, Chris Conner is going to jump right in and be awesome. We saw that with D'Angelo Williams in years past, but, here.
Or James Conner.
James Conner. What is wrong with me? I cannot talk today. Thank you for pointing out how stupid I am. I'm tired. I'm glad you guys are on. I'm looking at Chris Johnson's name on my screen, and that's messing me up. Yes, James Conner. Thank you. So it's just not that situation. A lot of times you see this happen in fantasy. People rush out. They get the next man up thinking that here's a home run hitter. This is my league winner. But not the case in Arizona. Not the way we're seeing it. So anything else you guys want to add to this situation before we move on? David Johnson's timetable has been given about 2 to 4 months, so he's expected to miss anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks. So in reality, he might be back just in time for your fantasy playoffs, but then we have to hope that he's in game shape. And who knows with the Cardinals' record if they're even going to bring him back off injured reserve, because what's the point of rushing him back or getting him back in if they've been eliminated? Yeah, if they're playing for nothing. Yeah. Why risk your star running back? So obviously, we'll keep you updated, and we have a lot of questions like, what do I do if I have David Johnson? And I say if you have a reserve spot in your league, I would put him there. If not, it's tough. My thought is kind of along those lines. If the Cardinals start losing a bunch of games, I would then feel probably pretty safe to drop him because you're looking at getting him back for maybe 1 or 2 weeks. But if they start losing a couple games, like we just said, he probably won't come back. So it's wait and see right now. We'll reevaluate probably a quarter of the way into the season. So that's the updates on David Johnson. Anything you guys want to add there before we move on?
We're good. Nope. I'm good.
All right, let's move on to Chicago, where running back Jordan Howard has remained sidelined throughout the week. He's dealing with a shoulder injury. So, guys, what are your thoughts on the situation in Chicago right now? Obviously, Kevin White put on injury reserve, broken collarbone, required surgery, and now it is just a completely muddled mess there. What are your guys' thoughts on what's going on there?
I mean, I like Tariq Cohen. I mean, he showed some great promise last week. Guy that I suggested people pick up off of waiver wire. I mean, this dude was great. He was leading the team in receiving. Great running the ball. I like him. I think he's a good replacement while Jordan Howard is out. I mean, it's tough now with, I mean, I don't know if it's tough right now. I mean, I never was a big believer in Kevin White. I still think Kendall Wright is going to be getting those receptions, and Zach Miller, I think his stock has to go up because he's another guy that's there that they can be able to pass the ball to and that's reliable. Only thing with him is health as well. So, I mean, out of those 3 targets, I think that this offense is still playable as far as, putting them in your lineup. I think you can be able to stop those guys with confidence. Somebody has to catch the ball. Out of those 3 guys, I think one of those 3 can be good.
Well, right now they have Kendall Wright and Marcus Whedon listed as the starters. To me, the main guy I'm probably looking to get in this offense, honestly, is Zach Miller, because Zach Miller, I think, and we've seen him be very productive there in the past, and I think he's the most surefire pass catcher they have there. Obviously, tight end position, so that's a lot of upside, maybe a sleeper pick. Jordan Howard is expected to play. That's not a concern. They're resting him, but it seems like, and they kind of hid this. If you guys, we didn't see much of Tyreek Cohen throughout the end of preseason, and then this was their kind of secret Swiss Army knife gadget player that almost caused an upset in Chicago. That really surprised a lot of people against the Falcons, but they did end up losing the game. And this looked schemed. He got a lot of targets and a lot of work in that offense, and people argue that that's because Kevin White went down. They needed more pass catchers out there, but I think this is going to be kind of the way it works going forward. I think they're going to probably run 2-back sets or rotate him in a lot. I'm still not concerned about Jordan Howard. He's going to be the lead back, but Tariq Cohen is going to be definitely the pass-catching back. He's going to be used in a lot of creative ways. So, I mean, we saw a lot of people go out and spend a lot of money on him as well. If you needed a running back, he's worth a stash. I don't know if he is going to get you enough production in standard leagues week in and week out, but in PPR, he could be a viable flex option. Was that kind of the way you guys read the situation as well?
Yeah, that's how I'm looking. I look at him as a guy that I can be able to plug and play if I'm not too, like, if you picked up Joe Mixon and you're not really liking what's going on with him at the moment, you know what I mean? You got Tariq Cohen there. You plug him in. He has a better situation right now, easier schedule right now, and it's less murky than what you got going on with the Bengals. So that's my thinking.
Yep, Jason, any thoughts?
I'm staying away from the Bears for the most part. It's too muddled right now. It's too murky. A lot of positions that need to be settled are not settled yet. So for the most part, I'm just steering clear of that team.
Yep, that's fair. All right, well, with that, let's move on to Baltimore, where Baltimore Ravens running back Danny Woodhead has been placed on injured reserve. We heard that this was a possibility, dealing with a hamstring injury. So this means he's, by all accounts, designated to return. He's going to be missing, as I reported out. They're thinking 1 to 2 months. So it looks like it's going to be right around the timetable that I predicted on Tuesday's show. So this will put him out for at least 8 weeks. So he will be able to return most likely somewhere around week 10. And realistically, he should be fine by then if he has that many weeks of rest and rehab. So in the meantime, one of my starts or waiver wire targets of the week was Javorius Buck Allen, which, we saw a lot of good play out of him in week 1. He came in and, he got a lot of carries as well, which I preach was a lot of them saving Terrence West because the game was out of hand. He was just killing clock, and they were using him. And the Ravens ran the ball, I think it was like some crazy, like 70% of the snaps, which is, we talked about wanting to get back to the run, but that's way too far the other way. And we talked about how Buck Allen, we thought, would fill that Danny Woodhead role. He's much more of a pass catcher than Terrence West, and, they kind of knew what the situation was going to be. However, since then, they have promoted Jeremy Langford from the practice squad to the active roster, so he was a Chicago Bear, there you go. Talented pass catcher, decent runner. So Danny Woodhead goes to IR, they bring up Jeremy Langford, that was their roster move. But they've also, on top of that, they've come out and they've talked about how wide receiver Michael Campanaro, this came from Joe Flacco, the quarterback, they thought he could step in and fill the void that was left with Danny Woodhead. So all of a sudden, we went from having Terrence West and Danny Woodhead to Terrence West, Jeremy Langford, Javorius Buck Allen, and Michael Campanaro possibly in rotation there. So the situation has gotten very muddied very quickly. So I think that Terrence West is the only sure thing that you can pick up right now in Baltimore because he is going to be that first, second down back. He's going to be the majority workhorse there. So if you want to throw a dart at one of these guys, you can and wait and see. But I think that it's going to be a lot of confusion. Buck Allen still is slated ahead of Jeremy Langford. Obviously, he knows the offense much better. But there's a lot of confusion and a lot of things that could happen here. And I think that the volume and the opportunity is going to be way too low for the risk that you're going to have to put into starting one of these guys. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Again, this is one of those situations that's a little bit murky. West would be the only guy that I would probably look at, as you already said. And even then, I'm not a big Terrence West fan. So, I'd steer clear until there's more clarity.
Yeah, for a series where I'm thinking that it's probably basically going to be like a solo Batman anime or a solo Superman. This has basically become the Super Friends, and I don't want that out of my running back position. So I'm gonna stay clear of you guys because right now you don't know what's going on. I'm just gonna go ahead and stick with Jeremy Maclin and or maybe Mike Wallace. That's it.
There you go. I mean, I have no fear with Terrence West. Let me clarify that there, because, I mean, he was not doing passing down work anyway. He is still going to be, like we said, first, second down back. He's going to be most commonly used in the red zone for rushing. He's their main north-south runner. So I still like Terrence West for the season, but besides that, trying to maybe, everybody tries to throw these darts at these guys. Oh, here's a sleeper, here's a waiver wire guy, and everyone's anxious to. And I talked about this on Tuesday's show. Everyone overreacts like crazy after week 1. It is insane the deals you see people doing, the players you see dropped, the players that people are trying to move. Guys, pump the brakes. I mean, yes, I understand you wanted to go out and make a big splash, like the guy in our league did, who went out and spent 3/4 of his free agent acquisition budget on freaking Kerwin Williams. So, just calm down, guys. Breathe a little. You drafted a team. If you listen to the show, we told you to draft for depth. You probably will be able to survive a week or two while we wait for some of these situations to clarify just a little bit. Speaking of another murky situation, let's go ahead and move on to Seattle, where head coach Pete Carroll said he is, quote, anxious to see more of rookie running back Chris Carson. So, I talked about how Eddie Lacy is basically droppable on Tuesday. I think, would you guys agree with that?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I know.
I would say no.
I mean, all right, well, CJ, obviously, you are on the Thomas Rawls train here. And I think regardless of Thomas Rawls, it's still going to be a committee. They really, as we're hearing here, they like rookie running back Chris Carson. And they have, why am I blanking on his name?
CJ Procise?
Procise, thank you very much. I don't know what's wrong with me tonight. So, I mean, this is just another very murky situation where I honestly don't want any parts of any of this situation right now. Obviously, CJ, you feel differently, so why don't you go ahead and weigh in?
Well, I mean, I like what I've seen out of Chris Carson, but I mean, granted, we still haven't seen Thomas Rawls a while since the preseason. When he's dealing with that ankle injury. So I can definitely see Pete Carroll saying he's anxious to see it because his main guy, the guy that they like and throughout the building, is not healthy yet to be able to put out there. So I mean, you've seen what's been going on with Eddie Lacy. And maybe we're overacting a little bit, but we just haven't. Me personally, I haven't seen throughout the preseason, and especially week 1. Yes, it was a tough matchup. I know he was looking to go get some revenge, but he looked slow. He just didn't have the burst. He didn't look like he was that bruising back. It looked like he was getting wrapped up already after 2 steps. And as a running back position, that's terrible. You're getting wrapped up already after 2 steps. Now, granted, you can probably say that's probably the offensive line. Bad play calling, but I just look at him and say right now that he's just not that dude right now. Maybe he's just a goal line dude, and that's where he'll probably be most effective. But for Chris Carson, he's been looking really good. CJ Procise has been out too, dealing with injuries. So Chris Carson is the main guy that's been getting the looks, and he looks like he's getting better and better each time he touches the ball. So I understand Pete Carroll's desire to be anxious to see him get some more touches.
It just seems like it's just such a muddied situation. And I don't know. Like you said, Eddie Lacy both didn't seem like he had the burst, but this was a team that was not trying to really run the ball. And, like you said, bad offensive line, which is something we talked about all preseason. But how bad? I mean, I know that the Packers have done quite a bit this offseason to try and upgrade that defense, but for them to go from as bad as they were last year to how dominant they looked in week 1, I feel like they've got to be somewhere in the middle there. And I think that the bad offensive line for Seattle really kind of helped mask that situation. Obviously, we'll get more clarity as we move through the season. Jason, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are I'm not shutting down all hope on Eddie Lacy just yet. I mean, he is the most talented back they've got in that backfield right now, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Yeah, they've got Carson. They've got Rawls. Of course, he's injured. And it's like, oh, look, he's injured. This is my shocked face. That Thomas Rawls being injured. And then CJ Procise. I really do like CJ Procise, but he's obviously going to be that third down slasher back. So I still think that when the smoke clears, Eddie Lacy is going to be the guy. So I'm not willing to say drop him just yet. I need to see a little bit more.
All right, fair enough. Let's move on from the running backs and move to the wide receiver position, where New York Giants wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. has returned to practice in a limited capacity. So good news there, right, guys?
Yeah, pretty good.
Pretty
I think he's going to be out a little longer though. I mean, I saw
Yeah.
reports saying that he might not be able to go this weekend or for next week. So I mean, and he's facing the Eagles next week, so I'm not mad at that at all.
No, you wouldn't be, of course. Jason, what are your thoughts here? Obviously, let's talk for fantasy.
Yeah, I would say be cautious, and I'll talk more about Odell Beckham when we get into our topic of the day.
Yeah. He got hurt. What was it? It was week 3 of the preseason, correct?
Week 3.
Yeah.
Week 3 of the preseason.
So-
rounds.
So, I mean, he said in this interview that he has a, quote, 6 to 8 week injury. So if it was week 3, that puts the injury about 3 weeks ago. So that means he's got another 3 to 4 weeks or so of recovery time, potentially, for him to be back to full strength. So a lot of the rumors that we're hearing surrounding this, suggesting that he might not play this week again, I mean, there's some possibility to that. So, I mean, I know a lot of people are very anxious to get who is most likely their number 1 receiver on the field and into their fantasy lineups, but it looks like it might not be this week, sorry to say. So if not him, I think that we all are on board with saying that Sterling Shepard definitely at this point of the season has the best rapport with
Are we now?
Well, let me tell you something about that game. I mean, Brandon Marshall didn't even get a look from Eli Manning. He wasn't looking for Brandon Marshall at all.
Yeah,
And when he did look for him, he overthrew the crap out of Brandon Marshall. Every time he went to look his direction, he overthrew him. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but yeah, of the receivers that are there right now that are healthy, yeah, Sterling Shepard.
Yeah, I still think that end of season that Brandon Marshall will probably most likely be the guy to have. But at this point, with the rapport that they have and Eli Manning being a little bit off target, and Brandon Marshall seemingly was drawing the top coverage against Dallas, it looks like Sterling Shepard might be the option for fantasy yet again. They're playing the Detroit. That's right. They're hosting the Lions on Monday Night Football. So not a great matchup, but not a terrible one either. So we'll see how that plays out.
I would try to get out of that game. If you had Giants players, I would try to. If you could, try to get out of that game, man. Get out of that.
Try to get out of that.
Yeah.
Let me. I want to see where they ranked again. I mean, obviously it's a 1 week sample size, but the Lions were a.
I mean, the Lions, they played really good against the Cardinals. Honestly.
Yeah.
That defensive
They
line,
played very well
that
against
front
the Cardinals.
seven was really good. And now, you're just going off of, you're only good as your last game. You saw the Giants last game on full display Sunday night.
The Lions,
I'm just saying.
For fantasy purposes, based on Week 1's numbers, which is not a big sample size, are giving up the 8th most points to fantasy wide receivers. So, I mean, it could be a decent matchup. So we'll see how it plays out. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off there, CJ. One more thing you want to add?
I was just saying that's to be concerning to me.
Okay.
Eli, man.
Well, we'll see. On the other side of the ball, though, Detroit Lions wide receiver Golden Tate was limited in practice on Thursday, dealing with a finger injury. He is, as by all accounts that I'm hearing, expected to play. So just a bit of an update there, something to think about. I mean, if he is limited and he's on a snap count, obviously big uptick for Kenny Golladay, though a tough matchup for them as well. New England wide receiver Danny Amendola has yet to return to practice. He is dealing with a concussion. There's a lot of expectation that he probably will not play in week 2, so we'll see how that plays out. And let's move on to the tight end position, where the Houston Texans have placed tight end CJ Fedorowicz on injured reserve after suffering yet another concussion. So it seems like he is IR'd, and this is not designated to return. His season seems to be done. So in the wake of this, we heard a lot about this on Thursday Night Football, the rotation of players that they have, and they're trying to get in there. But one thing that a lot of people aren't talking about, which I'm honestly surprised about, is that they're trying to bring in Gary Barnidge, and I think that could be a very interesting dart throw if he does end up getting signed to Houston. What are your guys' thoughts if Gary Barnidge signs with the Texans?
I like that.
Love that. Yeah.
I like that as well.
That a lot. I don't like Fedorowicz. I've never been a fan of that guy.
I honestly haven't either.
I have been a fan of Barnidge, so I would love to see that for them.
I agree. So with that, let's move into our topic of the day, which is our Week 2 preview. This is our starts and sits. Now, there are no bye weeks, of course. It's Week 2. No, we can't really say that because week 1 there was a bye week.
was a bye week.
But we're going to go position by position, starting with our starts. And remember, this is not obviously like, oh, well, you should start Aaron Rodgers, or Le'Veon Bell. I mean, obviously there are players that you lock in every single week. These are our players that we believe should be starting that you might have some hesitation on, that are not necessarily the locked and loaded guys or even sleepers. So it's kind of half the fun. So let's start off with the quarterback position, where my start of the week is Derek Carr. Guys, Derek Carr, he had a pretty decent week 1, I would go ahead and to venture to say. And not only that, he gets to play the New York Jets in Oakland. It's the home opener for the Raiders. I mean, guys, does it get much better than this? I think that I think we talked about last week, this is going to be a very common theme: streaming defenses or streaming players against the Jets defense. So I mean, the Jets, even against the Buffalo Bills, gave up the 7th most points to the quarterback position. So I can only imagine what Derek Carr is going to do at home. It's going to be beautiful. So I would start Derek Carr with plenty of confidence this week.
I like it. My start is a guy that, just fresh off this bye. You know what I mean? A guy that you drafted late, man. And he's probably gonna go out there and show out. I'm talking about the star of Hard Knocks, Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston is going to be playing at home versus the Bears. The Bears defense. That that defense that gave up that long, just drawn out play to Austin Hooper that took forever. Yeah, I'm talking about that Bears defense going against Jameis Winston and Deshaun Jackson, Mike Evans, Cameron Brate, O.J. Howard. Oh, my goodness. Jameis Winston is going to have a field day going against these Bears. I say start Jameis with confidence.
Jason?
I like it. Mine's Phillip Rivers. Phillip had an okay day against Denver. I mean, they lost, so that's not good. But 192 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did throw an interception, which dropped his points down a little bit. He's playing a not as good defense in Miami. I think that this puts him in a really nice position. And, of course, we all know Phillip Rivers is a very angry man. And when he loses, he gets angrier. So I have a feeling he's going to go in there and blow up the Dolphins. So I would start him with confidence.
I like it. Those are our quarterback starts of the week. Let's move on to the running back position, where my guy is Marshawn Lynch. Again, a common theme. He is playing at home, and of course, there's the narrative. Oh, there's Marshawn Lynch in his home opener in Oakland. He's going to have a huge game. Well, I mean, there's probably some truth to that because they are hosting the Jets, who gave up the 4th most points to the running back position last week against the Buffalo Bills. So, I mean, that's pretty good. The only teams that gave
better than I thought they'd do.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they'd be number 1, but, the Patriots and the Chiefs gave up a lot, and then the Falcons gave up quite a bit as well. Those are the 3 worst. And again, this is a really small sample size. I think that by the time we get 3-4 weeks into the season, the Jets will be the clear ones all the way at the top, the best matchup. Definitely the ones you're streaming against. I don't care really what the position is. Sorry, Jets fans out there, you know it's true. You guys gave away your entire starting lineup. But look, he's going up against a team that gave up a ton of points to LaShawn McCoy last week. And I think Marshawn Lynch is going to be on fire this week. So I think he's a sure thing for a touchdown, maybe 2, maybe more, who knows. But I think Marshawn Lynch is a guy you can safely lock and load into your lineup. He is going to have a fantastic week 2. And, that's good because he kind of let you down a bit in week 1. He had a very underwhelming performance. Decent volume, but obviously not the point total you're hoping for. Who wants to go next?
I like it. My guy is a guy that had a good week 1 performance. I mean, better than expected, but I've always said that he was going to be that guy in this offense. I'm talking about Mike Gillislee. They're going to be going against New Orleans Saints. They're going to be at there. And listen, New Orleans, if you paid attention to Monday Night Football, that defense is young, inexperienced. So that means it's ripe and just so good for the picking. I see Mike Gillislee having a fantastic day. And did I mention that Tom Brady is his quarterback? And he's pretty salty about that week 1 loss. This dude is going to be getting opportunities to be able to get in that red zone, catch the ball, and get you points. Start Mike Gillislee with confidence.
See, I went out and gave all this stuff about how I'd pump the brakes on Mike Gillislee, but I agree. This is going to be an amazing week for him. This is going to be a crazy high-scoring game, and he's going to probably do a lot of what he did last week, where he's going to be set up perfectly in the red zone. So I agree. Mike Gillislee is a great pick this week. I like it a lot.
Thank you, sir.
There you go. Jason, your guy.
All right, so some of you might kind of balk at this and think, what? But I'm gonna stick to my guns on this. I'm gonna say Amir Abdullah. Now, a couple reasons.
Salty.
First off, he's
Spicy.
playing the Giants, and the Giants did not play well against the rush in week 1. It looked awful, and that bodes well for Amir Abdullah. Also, I gotta say, he only rushed for 30 yards and caught for 11 yards. He didn't have a big game the first week. He's playing the Cardinals. It's a good defense that he's playing against, so understandable. The Giants are not as good a defense as the Cardinals in my book. Of course, maybe a little biased there. But bottom line here is this: what I saw from Amir Abdullah, even in the little amount that he was featured, and the little amount that he was able to operate, he looked very, very good, very spry, very fast, powerful. I was impressed with what I saw. So they're here for you again.
That's
Griffin.
for David Johnson.
A little siren in the background there.
That's what happens when David Johnson goes and visits Baltimore. Anyway, so
Wow.
I know, uncalled for. I really like Amir Abdullah. I think that we're going to see a little bit of a breakout game here against this New York Giants defense.
I agree. So with that, let's move on to the wide receiver position, where my guy is the one and only Larry Fitzgerald. Now, another defense that I'm definitely going to be streaming against is the Indianapolis Colts. They don't have the pieces, and their offense is going to struggle to stay on the field until Andrew Luck gets back. And I just see this being just a massive opportunity for them to go out there and just put up a ton of points. Guys, Cooper Kupp went out, and
Hey.
Hey. Look.
Easy.
What am I being easy about? I'm giving him props. He finished as a top 10 fantasy wide receiver.
Over there.
I thought you were going somewhere with that. He finished as the wide receiver 9 on week 1. And I think that Larry Fitzgerald is going to far exceed 76 yards and 1 touchdown against the Colts this week, especially with a very angry Arizona Cardinals team.
Arizona Colts.
Arizona Colts, yes. So, I think that the Arizona Cardinals are going to go out there and they're going to want to make a statement against the Indianapolis Colts in the Colts building.
There you
So I like Larry Fitzgerald this week to go out and put up a massive performance. I could see him finish as a top 12 wide receiver with relative ease, honestly. So I like him a lot. I'm locking him into I could start him in a wide receiver 2 position. I don't even need to flex this guy. CJ, your guy.
All right, my guy, before Griffin almost spoiled it for me, is Cooper Kupp, a guy that I've been preaching about since the preseason. My guy, Cooper Kupp, is going against the Washington Redskins. The Washington Redskins, that I might say, that made Nelson Aguilar, a guy that has been atrocious for years, made him a stud, a star, and had him out there catching passes, catching touchdowns. Redskins, they're giving up the cookies, like I like to say, man. And Cooper Kupp he brought his cup of milk ready for the cookies, which he's going to get on these Washington Redskins. Start Cooper Kupp with confidence, baby.
All right.
Wow.
Anyway.
That was interesting.
That was.
That was from my
ethnic
ethnic brothers. They know what's up.
Okay, moving on.
Wow.
I'm going to name somebody that's going to make CJ very happy, and that's Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
The reason I say Brandon Cooks is a couple of different reasons. First off, no Danny Amendola. Those targets got to go somewhere.
Everybody wants him.
We're also talking about a very, very, very angry Tom Brady. We're talking about a guy that does not like to lose, and when he loses, he goes out and annihilates the next team that he's playing against. And he couldn't be playing a better team to do this with, because he's playing New Orleans, who is atrocious against the pass. So you're looking at a Brandon Cooks who's going home to New Orleans, they're playing in New England. New Orleans is coming there. he's playing his former team. I think he's going to have himself a night. I think he's going to destroy him some New Orleans, and I would definitely start him with confidence.
I like the revenge game narrative myself. Moving on to the tight end position, my guy from the same game is, obviously, I couldn't throw out Rob Gronkowski. It is Coby Fleener. Now, I know that might make some of you a little bit ill, and I'm going to tell you, it's okay. Just accept it. Coby Fleener, he went out, and
Why would we do that?
He looked good. He caught 5 of 6 targets. He went out for 54 yards, got a touchdown, which is pretty good for a tight end, and he's going up against a team that, I mean, obviously, they did a pretty good job shutting down Travis Kelce, but they gave up a lot of production across the field. They're in New Orleans, where the Saints are just way better, night and day. Flip the switch, and oh my God, why am I blanking? What is wrong with me tonight?
That's what Coby Fleener does to you.
I can get you a list if you want.
Why am I blanking on the guy who's suspended? Why am I blanking?
I'm not sure.
I'll just wait. I'll wait for it.
It'll come to me. Willie Snead, there it is. Thank you. It came to me. It came to
Well,
me.
there he is.
I know. Everyone out there, I know you're yelling at me. I'm sorry. I haven't slept yet. It happens. Look, as long as Willie Snead's out, I think that the ceiling is drastically, and the floor are drastically increased for Coby Fleener. I think he goes out there and he puts up some serious production because they're going to be focused on Ted Ginn. They're going to be focused on Michael Thomas. I think that Coby Fleener is going to have himself another very good week. In fact, I could see him very easily finishing as a top 5 tight end yet again. I'm starting him with confidence in week number 2. CJ, your guy.
God, I hope he puts up a negative score. Well, listen,
Terrible.
my guy.
Why would you want that for a start of the week for our show?
Because I hate him so much.
I know you do.
All right, my guy is Evan Ingram. Listen, look, Eli, he was terrible the first game. But listen, Evan Ingram, a guy that I'm going to continue to preach because while Odell Beckham is out, and now that the defensive coverage is going to be going to Brandon Marshall, going to be focused on Sterling Shepard, that middle of the field is wide open for Evan Ingram to make money for you. Listen, I'm telling you, go pick this guy up. Stash him on your bench. If you feel good, if you're desperate to put him in your lineup this week, start this man with confidence. Put that man in your lineup.
There you go. Jason?
Austin Hooper. Good grief. I mean, 2 catches, 128 yards, and a touchdown. The guy was hyper efficient, didn't get a lot of looks in the first game. I have a feeling he's going to get a lot more looks in this coming game. He's playing a Green Bay team that is still a little suspect in the secondary, and he's playing on one of the best offenses in the league. I really like Austin Hooper. I've always liked Austin Hooper, and I think this is he's starting to show some things. And I mean, the fact that he rumbled for 88 yards on a was amazing to watch. And I think CJ already mentioned it. It was like a slow motion play, but he just kept going. I really like him. I would start him with confidence.
You're not concerned that he only had 2 targets the entire game?
I'm not, because he did the most of those 2 targets. And Matt Ryan is the kind of quarterback to where if he throws you 2 targets and you turn that into 128 yards and a touchdown, he's going to throw you more than 2 targets in the next game.
You would certainly hope so.
I'm going to say, outside of the big 3 with the tight end position, man, if you get a touchdown, I mean, that's gold. They did their job, basically.
There you go. Let's move on to our sits of the week. How are we doing on time? A little bit tighter on time than I'd like, so let's go through these a little bit quicker. My guy is Deshaun Kaiser. Now, a lot of you might be thinking, why would you bring up Deshaun Kaiser? Well, he did finish as a top 12 quarterback last week, and that's crazy. And this is, of course, the 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. But, hey, he did. So this is a guy who we actually saw get picked up quite frequently. People like to throw that dart on the board. I'm not starting him on the road on his first road opener against the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens, they embarrassed Andy Dalton last week in Cincinnati. This time they are at home in Baltimore, and they ranked, again, small sample size, but for fantasy points, the worst against fantasy quarterbacks. In fact, the teams against the Ravens, because it's only 1 week, averaged -3 points, so quarterbacks. So, yeah, I'm not starting a rookie on the road against the Ravens defense. They look scary. I like that a lot, and that's not me as a Ravens fan. That's just facts. So do not start Deshaun Kaiser. I know he's a new shiny piece on some of your teams. Don't do it. Wait a week. It's going to be bad.
Yeah, man, those boys was eating Baltimore last week. Mine, I hate to do this because he had such a good game last week, but Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota, there's Tennessee Titans are going to be facing Jacksonville Jaguars. These Jaguar defense, oh my goodness, these boys are
Yeah.
out there hunting. I mean, they injured. They put that boy. They were destroying Tom Savage, destroying Deshaun Watson. These dudes, I don't want nothing to do with that. So Marcus Mariota, I'm telling you, please, go stream a quarterback. Put him on your bench. It's not going to be worth it. It's not going to be good. Sit Marcus Mariota this week.
Jason?
Yep. Again, it's just as much as CJ hated to put someone on there, I hate to put this guy in there because I'm a fan. Kirk Cousins. Reason, he's playing the Los Angeles Rams. And I think the Rams proved to us last week that they are legitimate when it comes to defense. Wade Phillips is a thing. And that freaking defense is ridiculous. They're scary. And guess what? They're going to have a very angry Aaron Donald back. That is, I would be having cold sweats right now if I was Kirk Cousins thinking about that. So I wouldn't start Kirk Cousins. He may get some points, but he's definitely not going to get as many as he would normally get. So I would sit him.
That is fair. With that, let's move on to the running back position. I'm going to start with a guy who a lot of you probably picked up as a top 12 running back if you were paying attention to fantasy during the offseason, and that is Isaiah Crowell. Guys, Isaiah Crowell, he is a guy who is going up against, yet again, the Baltimore Ravens defense, who have been a top 10 rush defense for a very long time. And they went out, they did it again last week in Cincinnati. They're a completely different breed when they're at home. I would look elsewhere if I have Isaiah Crowell. It's just not a good idea. So, yeah, don't start him. Look elsewhere.
My guy, short and sweet, Carlos Hyde, going against a very angry and waiting to hit somebody, going against the Seahawks. These guys have been playing bad against these Seahawks for years now. I don't like the matchup. Neither should you. Please sit Carlos Hyde this week.
Yeah. My guy is CJ Anderson. And we play in Dallas. Dallas is stingy. They like to beat up on running backs. And I think that they're going to try to take away CJ Anderson in the running game and make Trevor Siemian beat them through the air, which I don't think is something they think he can do. So I would sit CJ Anderson.
All right, let's move on to the wide receiver position, where I am sitting a guy by the name of T.Y. Hilton. And I know if you're looking at the small sample size that we have, the Arizona Cardinals for fantasy are giving up the most points to fantasy wide receivers. And I don't care. This is going to be a serious statement game for them. They're going into Indianapolis, I know, but T.Y. Hilton doesn't have Andrew Luck. The running back, there's a huge committee, and they seem to not be very viable. The defense is going to be bad. The offense isn't going to be able to stay on the field. The offensive line is questionable. And again, with Andrew Luck not there, this team goes from being maybe a playoff contender to they're going to struggle to go 500. I don't even know if they get there. So I think the Cardinals are going to right the ship this week, and I just don't see T.Y. Hilton getting any separation from any of the defenders covering him. Probably going to be shadowed by Patrick Peterson if I had to guess. So I don't like T.Y. Hilton this week. It's going to go incredibly poorly. Don't start him. Just don't do it.
Oh, Dez Bryant. Dez. What a bad matchup you have. Going against the Denver Broncos with those top flight corners. Oh, Dez. Poor Dez. I'm going to have to sit you, buddy. Not because you're just a division rival, just because this is a bad matchup for you. I mean, we saw what they did against the Chargers. Keenan Allen just barely got a touchdown. And, with you being the main target there and all, I just don't see you having a good matchup against these guys. So I'm going to have to sit you this week, buddy.
Yeah. The reason I put this guy on here is because he is a top 3 wide receiver, Odell Beckham Jr. And the reason is because we don't know what's going on with the injury. Again, he may not even play, but if they do play him, I wouldn't start him because not only that, he's also playing Detroit, and Detroit actually is playing pretty well against the pass right now, and they're looking that team is looking really good. So I would sit Odell Beckham Jr. this week. Give it a couple weeks before you try putting him back in your lineup.
Yeah, odds are he's probably not going to play, but if he does, I agree. It's not not a good fit. My guy, in the same vein of what I was talking about before, I'm pulling from a lot of the same games here. Maybe that's cheating, but I think it needs to be said at this point in the season, especially. I am sitting Jack Doyle for all the same reasons I just said about T.Y. Hilton. It is going to go badly for him. It's a bad idea. Jack Doyle will not rule. Jack Doyle will not rule in week number 2. Sorry to say, it won't happen. So the Cardinals may be the top matchup based on 1 week for wide receivers, but they're still a top 5 defense or a bottom 5 matchup against the tight ends. Don't do it. Bad idea. They gave up 2.9 points to the tight end position last week. So there you go. CJ.
My guy, another guy that I'm going to follow up with Jason when he says sit the quarterback. I'm going to say sit the tight end. Jordan Reed going against the Los Angeles Rams. Jordan Reed had a very bad performance last week.
Wade Phillips.
And he's going against Wade Phillips' defense that has Al Ogletree, Mark Barron, and Aaron Donald. Just the list goes on and on.
Don't do it.
And do I need to just say one more thing? The guy's still not healthy. He's still not 100% healthy. He's still dealing with that toe injury. Dude, stay away from Jordan Reed this week.
Can I just take a quick timeout and point out how right we were on our 3 main sleeper defenses this year? The Ravens, Rams, and Jags, who finished as the top 3 in fantasy this past week.
Baby. Where is our sponsorship? Sign us.
In fact, I believe all 3 of them finished as top 24 fantasy options. Let me verify that. But yeah, they finished well. That's from the defensive position, so I like that.
Man, too sweet all around.
Oh yeah,
too sweet.
Oh yeah, yeah. In fact, yeah. In our listener league, I faced off against Griffin, and he had the Ravens, and I had the Rams, and I think between the two of us, we scored what? Wasn't it like 56 points?
It was
just the defenses.
It was a little ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. Yeah, it was crazy. All right, so my sit of the week for the tight end position is Martellus Bennett. Going to Atlanta. They're playing a very underrated Atlanta defense, who's very good against tight ends. So I'd sit him down.
There's only 4 players that finished higher than those 3 defenses, and that was Kareem Hunt, Alex Smith, Matthew Stafford, and Sam Bradford. And then it was those 3 defenses in standard scoring leagues. So that's wow. Yeah.
That is awesome.
So sorry, that's a little side note there. But yeah, so Jack Doyle, Jordan Reed, Martellus Bennett, I agree with all of those things. So with that, let's get out of here. That's going to do it for us today. Please make sure you guys tune in on Tuesday when we will be talking about all of our top waiver wire targets for week number 3. Of course, recapping week 2 as well. If you guys want to support the show, remember, head over to patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Get yourself bonus episodes every single week. And not only that, you're going to get yourself, priority question answering, a lot of other perks as well. So head over there. We can't recommend it enough. Please make sure you guys stick with us all season long. We're going to be doing this all the way through the season. If you do playoff fantasy, we'll be doing that as well, and then we continue right off into the season. Just hit the subscribe button. We'll come to your pocket. We're here every single week, and you can find all of our rankings, and we're trying to get more articles up on the website, but we're just so focused on the show itself. It's becoming a little difficult, but we're working on it. You can find us online at thefantasyfootballfanatics.com, and as we mentioned, we're here every Tuesday, Friday. You can follow the show at the FF Fanatics for breaking news as it happens, so you don't have to wait for individual recordings. Or you can follow us individually. I'm at GPalmerFFF, CJ's at CJHickman89, and Jason is at JasonCabrera13. And we're going to do another round of the Periscope, right, CJ?
Yep, this Sunday.
Let's do this. So what time does that usually start?
Normally try to get it out there 10:30.
All right. So 10:30 Eastern time. Yeah. Check with either CJ's Twitter or the official show Twitter at the FF Fanatics, and you'll get a link to CJ doing a live Periscope, last minute news updates, hot takes, things of that nature for the week coming up. And on the Twitter account at the FF Fanatics, you'll be getting all the injury updates as they break as well. So all your starts and sits. It'd be a lot helpful if you know if Odell Beckham Jr. does play or not. So, all right, with that, we are out of here. Any parting thoughts, guys?
Desert Rats. Appreciate you this week, man. Suck it.
Okay. Listener League, trash talk. Gotta love it. Jason, anything you want to add?
That's all we need now. Guys, have a good week. Hopefully I'll have a better week than I had last week. Good grief.
Jason is getting ready to be that guy who purges his whole team and overreacts after 2 weeks of fantasy. So, all right, we're out of here. Everyone take care.
Sure.
Have a great week. Have an even better weekend of football, and we'll see you on Tuesday. Bye.
Drink Louis Sweat.
Still won't trade Griffin.
Only got a gallon in the gas tank, but I'm almost at the finish line, so I can't stop now. I don't really know where I'm headed, just enjoying the ride. Gonna roll till I drop and ride till I die.